Chamath, Oprah, and Elon, part 6. So I want to continue on the discussion from part 5 where we talked about Oprah and how she moves forward in life. And I touched on it a little bit, but to expand it in terms of the area of vision and imagination, Oprah is one of the strongest at these. So are Chamath and Elon. Because like Elon, he imagined, PayPal, he imagined Tesla, he imagined SpaceX, and Chamath imagined all these SPACs and social capital solving the world's biggest problem. Now Oprah, again to that story where her grandmother told her that, to pay attention to how she hangs clothes because she's going to have to do it someday. And something in Oprah said, no, I'm going to have a bigger future than that. And what is that something? And there's something inside of us, a soul or whatever, that is bigger than our conditioning sometimes. Like they find that some people are naturally more resilient than others. You can have two siblings raised in the same household, and one of them could have a much bigger vision than the other. And Oprah also read a lot of books, and the books opened up her world to possibilities. That's why they say earners are learners, and readers are winners are readers, because the world is complicated and you have to figure things out, and you can't figure things out unless you're exposed to new and better ideas. So if you have an excitement for learning, then you'll always go far in life. So let's talk about the imagination and of Oprah and how that works. So for Oprah, she's always talking about her spiritual identity, and identity is linked to achievement and success. Like Tony Robbins says, we'll always achieve according to our identity. So if you have an identity of a person that makes $1 million a year, you'll just learn and study and think and kind of warp yourself to that idea. We always warp ourselves to the idea that are consistent with our identity. That's why people that win the lottery, if they have a poor mindset, they eventually go back to where they were. And people will always, it's kind of like people that have a low self-esteem, if you give them a compliment, they won't accept the compliment because they don't believe it. They don't feel like they're worthy of it. So they always go back to the level of where they think they're at. And people that feel like they deserve more, they won't accept people treating them badly. That's been kind of like the story of my life. I had an acceptance of people treating me badly because I didn't feel like it was acceptable to not accept it. I had ideas in my mind that you can't be rude, you can't be, you have to accept what life gives you, you have to be grateful for whatever you have in life. I was told that just be grateful for whatever you have in life. And it's good to be grateful, but you can be grateful and still ambitious at the same time. You're grateful for everything that you've learned and where it's brought you today, and you know that you're capable of doing more. So with Oprah, her spiritual identity, leads to doing more because she knows that the conditions of the world, just, aspire to fame or wealth. I mean, she's got all those things, but she's got all those things because she knows that her inner being is linked. I was listening yesterday to some of her interviews and some of her principles that she talked about. One of them was a conversation that she had with Esther Hicks, who's famous for the channeling the spirit, Abraham. And I noticed a couple of things on that interview that stood out. One is that Oprah had a combination of an open mind, a spiritual focus, and also a practical skepticism or scrutiny. Like Oprah knows that her audience is skeptical, and that forces her to be skeptical because she wants to maintain credibility with them. She even said a few times, I can't put you on TV because people aren't ready to accept this yet. It freaked them out. And she asked Esther, are you weird and this and that? Is it a weird process? see, Oprah is in tune with her audience. It doesn't mean that she's led by her audience. She's leading her audience, but she's leading them step by step by step. She's not like leading them in a place where they're not ready to go. So that's what great leaders do. Like they take you, they kind of hold your hand and they take you to the next step and the next step, because people can take the next step, but they can't take a lot of other steps. Like I remember I had run a couple marathons. I was training my older brother in a marathon who had never run one. And the idea of a marathon was very scary to him because he was running like, 2, 3, 4 miles, something like that. But you have to like build up an idea little by little by little. You have to connect the dots. Like Steve Jobs, I think famously said, you can only connect the dots looking forward. What happens is you don't know how you're going to get there. Like if you're driving in a car, your car can only see, the headlights can only see in the dark, a few meters ahead, but you could drive all the way across the country that way, just a few meters at a time. And what happens is like once you crest one hill, then you get to the next hill. So you don't know like what are 5 hills apart until you get, conquering each one. So Oprah, like she talks about the color purple and how she manifested that, through her beliefs, and as she conquered one mountain, then she got to the next mountain. Bob Proctor says that, when you make a committed decision to a higher goal, then your energy like starts transforming to that higher goal, to that higher frequency. Everything is frequency. Like right now, wherever you're achieving is where your thoughts are, and your thoughts are at one level, so you're achieving at that level. To get to a higher level, you have to increase your frequency to that level. So if you're at the frequency of $100,000 and you want to get to $1 million, you have to think consonant, and you have to feel consonant with what $1 million feels like, and the actions that lead to $1 million. So what happens is when you make a firm decision, even if you don't know how you're going to get there, then you start like thinking it, you start imagining it, you start studying it, you start reading it, and little by little by little, you're transforming yourself into the kind of person that you want to be. It's like I want to work with Oprah, and I'm studying Oprah. I'm learning who she is. I'm learning how she thinks. I'm learning what's important to her. I'm learning what her energy is. I can feel her energy because I've watched so many interviews with her that it's kind of like she's pictured in my mind, in terms of like how would she react? What does she think? I mean, I also focus on other things. You can't be, just focused on one thing. But, anything that you want to have in your life, you have to become kind of one with it in your mind. You have to like understand it. Like if you want to have money, you have to understand your money. Don't crumple up your money. Don't like idolize it, but look at it, think about it. Like, what does $100 bill look like? What does it think about? What is associated with $100? If you want to work with someone, what's associated with that person? Like Chamath, I was saying, like Chamath has the principles of democratization, democratizing money, making it so that people can understand the success principles. I talked about, the idea of fulfillment. I talked about Elon Musk and his idea about becoming, a multiplanetary species, and about sustaining the world. See, the idea always precedes the accomplishment. The idea has to be linked to identity. See, what happens is when you make a committed decision, then you become identified with it. It becomes part of your identity. Like if you say, I want to go to the gym, then it's kind of like it's something that you might or might not do. If you say that I'm a person that works out every day, it's part of your identity. It's kind of like, it's not what you want, it's who you are. So it's kind of like you start out at the beginning saying, I'm making 100,000, I want to make 1 million. But over time, it starts to transform from what you want to who you are. You start to think of yourself, I'm a person that makes $1 million a year. And then when you accomplish that, eventually it might become, I'm a person that makes $1 million a month. And when it becomes part of your identity, it's kind of like you'll just do whatever it takes. You'll learn whatever it takes to get it because it's like, this is who I am.